Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings does some pretty creative stuff, but it still falls into a lot of the traps and the weird things that the MCU is starting to do now and has always done. And I'm wondering if they're ever going to fix it. Hey, what's up, Nerd fam? This is your boy Gashawn. I want to welcome you to Enter the Nerd. Today, we talk about Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. So, this was obviously an anticipated film for a lot of people, a lot of controversy going into it, really surrounding its release, and maybe even some of the comments that some of the cast have said, specifically like the main actor. However, as a movie, when it came to the trailer and everything, before I even watched the movie, a couple things concern me in terms of source material, which always gets me because they seem to derail and do composite characters. And yes, those things do happen here, and yes, that's some of the things that I had issue with. But what I did see in the trailer, which still continued in the film, was, in a positive note, was certain creative choices in terms of choreography and some of the stylings, and even some of the colors that were chosen in some of these scenes made this film have a look and feel in other places that you've never actually seen in the MCU, which is great. So I'm going to start with that. Start with those pros that I think are really cool. Is creatively, parts of this film really did feel different. Like I said, specifically with the choreography, and it should, because you have some of like Jackie Chan's old stunt guys in here, and it should feel like that. You can see there are a lot of homages to Jackie Chan himself and a lot of other like famous films. Because here's the thing, Shang-Chi the character was pretty much a character based off a lot of like the stereotypical kung fu masters you saw in the films. So this one kind of seems a bit updated in terms of the type of styling, because now you saw like House of Flying Daggers and even Crouching Tiger references, stuff like that, which obviously all came out way past when the character was actually created. And I thought that was really cool. And even at the beginning fight scene with Wenwu and his wife, how they fell in love. And if you watch a lot of these like Chinese or like Hong Kong based films, because in like the Hong Kong fight style which was used, like those are all like Hong Kong stunts. Even the way they were performing it, like the fast pace of go 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 go, it was all that, which is pretty awesome. Hard to do, but very very awesome, right? But you can see like this was tons of like very Hong Kong influence, which I loved about this film. This thing I actually really really loved when it came to the stunt work. Now, is it as practical as some of things like the Raid and stuff like that? No, but it's aesthetically pleasing, and you can see some of like I said, the Jackie Chan references in here. It also did something that I had a problem that the Eternals trailer didn't do, which was it tried to at least isolate itself within that with Ta Lo. Pretty much when you have a catastrophic event like that and nobody else comes in, it's a bit of an issue. However, they made sure that they did this within a whole other place, so they can deal with this threat, being that like the Dweller, like the big, pretty much the big dragon that was like sucking all the souls out, that one. They were able to deal with that without having to ask, hey, how come any of the other superheroes didn't come in? Because it was isolated and it made a ton of sense. So I dug that. So they tried to make this a very isolated solo film for a while until they didn't, right? Because then they still want to make this serve an overall narrative, which, like I said, I had this problem with Spider-Man, can sometimes destroy the narrative of a single film, because they should be able to, like, these origin stories should be able to just be about them and maybe not even include anything from any of these other films, right? So this is where I go, because a lot of these pros actually are tied into some of the cons. So I mentioned this in the previous trailer review about this, is that first off, his father is a composite character, right? He's a composite of obviously the Mandarin and obviously Fu Manchu, which obviously could be a bit offensive for people, and that's fine. If they don't want to use that name, but the Mandarin is an Iron Man villain. They said it was offensive then, now they're using all the stuff with him now. The Ten Rings, even though the Ten Rings are not like that as well. They're not bangles. They're actual rings that are actually alien technology. Like, they took so much away from that character and did it on a surface level, so we lost out on all that. So that's like a big problem for me. But now you have, Zhang Zhu, who you can use now. Even though it's Wenwu in the movie, let's take Zhang Zhu, who in the comic, obviously, had a brother sacrificed himself, and then he became what he became later on. So they do this thing where somewhere in the MCU, they hate making true villains. All the villains have to have this likable human side, and they really don't. Oh, I understand. They don't have to. And even in the comic, this guy was like a killer. Even the way he made Shang-Chi, like he was looking for a woman. Because mind you, Shang-Chi is actually half white. Now, they didn't want to do that here. Fine. You could have still kept her Asian, but maybe it wasn't for love. Maybe they got together because he's like, she's a martial artist. I like that about her. It will make strong children. But they didn't want to do that. They wanted to kind of make it a love story. Some people prefer that, but if they want to solidify him as a villain, that would have been really cool. In the comic, Shang-Chi believed in his father and did kill people based off of what his father said because he was brainwashed. And that would have been cool to see here, to see our hero do pretty horrible things because he believed in his father so much and then finds out, oh snap, he's evil, just from being brainwashed. That would have been a very interesting take to have on him. And then, have the guy's truly evil and then this, and then maybe even the inclusion of Midnight Sun, who's his adopted brother, who, didn't care that Zhang Zhu was even evil. And that would have given him a self-isolated villain right there that didn't have to be world ending. Didn't have to do with magic and powers, but it still could have been martial arts because Shang-Chi doesn't do the whole 10 rings thing. It's he's so skilled that he can actually control his chi that he seems superhuman. That's something that could have been really used here, but the 10 rings thing was really gimmicky. Even the way it was used, it felt kind of cheap for me. If you like it, I get it, but for me it felt cheap. The actual 10 rings, go look it up, see what it does. I mean, it can even resurrect people. Resurrected Eric Killmonger. These don't do that. It just gave him longevity and gave him some powers, which seemed to be only pretty physical in nature, right? I felt that was missing. Now, the sister part, it's cool because he does have a half sister in the comic, and she's actually also evil. So I'm saying if she, at the end of the post-credit scene, she might go that way here too, right? Which is fine. It's fine. But the whole mom thing, being part of some other, society, that's really not a thing. They did that here because I guess they wanted to use that to, once again, to fuel this narrative about the father not being really evil. I get it. And then have the whole mom storyline, have that fuel. Hey, you left us. I get it. And I even like that they did something consistent with that because they showed that she was actually able to beat the father. But then she lost to the same dudes that he goes on later to massacre. But I like the fact they explained it because after she left, she didn't have those powers anymore. So they explained why she would have lost that. And I like that. See, I like consistency. I'm glad they at least did that. Besides that, it's at the end they put the Avengers in, and he's gonna end up in there. They have Awkwafina. I don't really know what her point is. She's just gonna be comic relief. She's just gonna be his sidekick the whole time. I guess they didn't like it. And a lot of things that she was doing was kind of cringy to me. If you like her, that's fine. Some things were funny, some things were a little cringy, some things were very heavy-handed. Like a scene where they're all together as friends, hey, we all got made fun of, for the reason I got made fun of for the same reason why we all got made fun of. I guess it was insinuated maybe because they're all Asian. Is that what they're trying to say? And I mean, that was only weird to me because it's not like every Asian person that I grew up with all got made fun of. They didn't, and maybe they're just talking about their group. If that is, it is what it is. But it seems heavy-handed, especially with the political and social climate we have right now. It was kind of odd, a comment like that, right? Either way, the main cons are source material. Honestly, does a better job at giving a not a longer lasting story. Because let's just say this: I know most people have never even heard of Shang-Chi. The general audience has not heard of him. I get it; it's more obscure. Even Kevin Feige knew that, and even used that to say that's why he was going to take liberties with the character. Not surprised, but this will be good to at least use what's written about him because it lasts long. I mean, Shang-Chi even trains a whole bunch of people, and he can even fight with some gods and stuff like that. He trained Spider-Man during the whole Spider Island thing, did the whole spider food thing, which is pretty cool. He gets pretty important later on, and then the whole Agents of Atlas thing, which might actually be able to still happen. I hope it can, and maybe in a show up, But besides that, yeah, source material does it better. Actually, go for a villain. Not every villain can be an anti-hero. Like Thanos, he's destroying the world, but because I'm really trying to save the resources. Eric Killmonger, I'm doing genocide, but you know, it's for black people. Loki, I did all this crazy stuff, you know, especially remember in the Avengers movie, but you know, I'm a lovable, selfish God. It's like, no, settle. Make somebody pretty messed up. That's it. Even if they start one way, make them messed up, and they don't have to be super relatable. They don't. It's okay. You don't have to relate to them. I think they need to start doing that, and you don't have to kill them either, because all these villains die as well, except for like Loki, he's still alive. But the finality also sucks, because if you see in comic book universes, their villains are still around. They get defeated, they might get locked up, sent to another dimension, but they still have to be there. And Shang-Chi, when I saw the creative stuff they were doing here, I saw that it could have a chance, if done right, it could have a chance to start up some really cool stuff. But I see he's gonna fall by the wayside and have, you know, probably just gonna serve a narrative. They pretty much showed that there. And even the whole Doctor Strange references, because this is the thing. Zhang Zhu, in the comic, you know, his father, does actually fight Fin Fang Foom, which is connected to Doctor Strange. But in this, it's like they connected it more to Wong. And I'm glad that Doctor Strange actually took notice here, because it's a magical artifact. So it's funny how they saw that, but didn't notice anything that happened in WandaVision. See, that's that inconsistency part we're talking about. But at least these people decided to pay attention to those little bit of parts. Now, I'll give them credit for that. But once again, this character is pretty unrecognizable to the comic. Most people don't know because they've never read the comic. But I feel like if they would have just paid more attention to that and not been scared to cross some boundaries, add in some characters, and perhaps not do too many allusions to the overall MCU, perhaps this could have been a much stronger film. That's for me. If you liked it, thought it was perfect the way it was, I dig it. But you know, if you watch any of my past videos, I do lean more on the side for source material, and I like writing that leads, like, you know, you got isolated writing, and they give them their due, and then inject them into the overall like MCU. That way they actually have something to go into. Either way, let me know what you thought about it. Did you love the film? Did you hate the film? What did you like about it? What didn't you like about it? Let's talk about it. Let's have a discussion. Even maybe, what did you wish they were able to actually show in this, or whatever. Until then, keep on watching some movies, read some more comics, and enter the nerd.